Howdy everybody, we're back with some more RPG horror stories. Let's jump into our first story. First story is going to be from user Artichoke C4707 and is titled GM rewrote my character's backstory and made me sing at the table. Pretty much what it says in the title, GM was very enthusiastic and asked for everyone's race class background a few weeks out from session 1. So far so good. When we show up, he hands us all individual scripts. To introduce our characters, he then proceeds to ask each person to act out a skit with them featuring their own character, which he had fully written new backstories and experiences for. Mine had to sing. Edit, this happened a while ago, and yes, I left the game. Thank you everyone for your concern. I'm okay. So my first thing is, if you're gonna ask for everyone to provide race, class, backstory, etc., which is standard fare for an RPG, why are you not using those same race, class, and background? Also, making players act out skits and forcing players to sing? I mean, maybe for a group of theater kids, but I mean, personally, I don't want to sing to my players at the table, and if I'm not willing to do it, I'm not going to force them to do it. This DM's kind of shitty. To everyone that is shocked and appalled that I didn't instantly flip the table over, set the minis on fire, and jump out the window the second this happened, it's just a game. It was a mildly awkward 5 minutes. GM is a kind person and we play other games. When it happened, it was super unexpected and was something I never imagined would happen, so I wasn't prepared to deal with it in the moment. Neither were the other 4 players who did the exact same thing I did to be polite. We're not about to end friendships over a misguided theater kid moment. We live, we learn. If we started another RPG, someone else would probably run the game and or this is something we would discuss in session 0. Okay, I'm shocked they went along with it to be polite, but then left the game later on. I just let the DM know I wasn't comfortable with singing. I'm all for like a skit of sorts, but to me like a skit would be a little scene to intro your character outside of the you meet an edgy elf in a tavern sort of intro that kind of happens with a lot of groups. It feels like it's kind of like that status quo trope, but I would personally leave it open to something more improv-like. I want my players to be getting into the mindset of their PC, which they're often still figuring out for the first few sessions anyway. So forcing them to read lines just isn't organic RP to me, and I don't enjoy that. So, you know, your mileage may vary, I guess. Our next story is going to be from user Fields of Sunshine and is titled Group Tortured My OC First Session. How do I recover? Trigger warning, sexual assault. How do I recover from torture in the first session? Edit, I left the group but wanted to play again. Excuse me, edit, I left the group but want to play again. Trigger warning, graphic assault, cruelty, potentially bullying here. TLDR, labeling that right up front there. First session in a new party, my character was physically and mentally tortured. DM didn't intervene. I was forced to roleplay fundamentally breaking a self-insert character. I quit the table, feel violated. How do I feel okay to play again, if ever? Update. We're jumping way ahead here before we even know what happens. Thank you everyone for being so kind and affirming. I left the group immediately and have stopped talking to everyone. I'm hoping to store my character and write a better story for her later. I'm feeling more hopeful about playing in the future, given the almost unanimous opinion that this was bizarre and unheard of behavior in D&D and for people in general. We're not even into the story yet, by the way. This is kind of wild. But I'm glad it's got a good ending. For those asking, I wish this was rage bait. Unfortunately, sometimes people are actually capable of being more cruel than we expect. Happy adventuring, be kind, and look after each other. Context. I'm disabled and have epilepsy. This has prevented me from playing D&D for years. The workaround now is I could play as a lycanthrope. So when I have a seizure, my character transforms and the DM plays on as me with the group. So I'm glad OP left the problem table. A table that forces you to roleplay sexual assault is not normal. Most that play D&D want to have a fantastical adventure with friends, not sexually assault people. My best advice to start off with to help get past this personally is just know that this is not normal and you have not done anything wrong. This is not your fault. I can imagine the difficulties that come with trying to play at a table when you have something like epilepsy. Perhaps playing electronically might prove easier or doing a play-by-post campaign. Those are just some suggestions though. Backstory. I was invited to play by a friend when a player dropped out. I spent months learning, listening in on their campaign online, and building a character with a DM that balanced their party and my epilepsy. I chose to be a white werebear barbarian who didn't know they were cursed as a major characteristic. I thought it was interesting and parallels my recent experience not knowing I had epilepsy. Losing time / blacking out / waking up in strange places with strange injuries / people being scared of you / feeling isolated and rejected by society / out of control. TTRPG is a really great way to help handle things you might be dealing with in your life and putting yourself in the shoes of someone that's going through struggles that might be similar to you and allows you to potentially act out how to maybe react in certain situations and stuff like that. Obviously not one for one, you know, if you're in a fantastical magic land throwing fireballs around. Obviously not one-to-one generally to normal people, but there are situations when you're doing RP that can kind of help you, I feel like, a little bit. Story. For my first session introduction, DM suggests the party meets me in werebear form first, and she roleplays me for an encounter. Cool. Better than meeting in a tavern. When I reach about 10 HP, I transform back to a humanoid. Interesting. Sounds like they fought her, and also the DM played her. I don't know if I would personally do that. Maybe have them join the combat alongside the party. My players are usually pretty good at picking up on cues though, and rolling what changes their punches, so maybe I'm blessed a little bit in this court, or in this area here. But personally, I would just have her like, I would have some like, I don't know, big bad shows up, not like a BBEG, but like a big bad thing shows up, the party's fighting it, and suddenly a werebear flings itself out of the forest and starts fighting this thing alongside them. That way the players kind of know, hey, this might not be a bad, it's not an enemy, at least just yet. They immediately tie my character, she, her, up and start questioning her at knife point. She's acting confused and fighting them. They roll checks and can tell she's not lying about not knowing she was a beast. They still choose to keep her completely bound on her knees, head pulled back by hair. DM allows Sorcerer to roll for more damage and I drop to 6 HP. I think that it's pretty obvious I'm a lycanthrope, full moon, beast transformation, duh. I'm thinking they're all magic users and experienced players. Someone roll Arcana and figure it out and let's move on. No. This is not what happens. Even when they eventually learn, it only gets... Okay, DM should have put a stop on any sort of further violence once they had her PC restrained. Also, DMs, do not be afraid to have characters roll skill checks. Don't wait for them to ask to roll and say, hey, if anyone's proficient in Arcana, religion, nature, etc., please make that roll. These players also need to be above table here and realize that they need to respect an incoming PC. Even if the circumstances of that PC's arrival are odd and even potentially a little aggressive. Over 2 in real life hours, my character is beaten across the face, hexed, taunted, and threatened with eternal damnation for resisting. DM messages me to say I should be more compliant to help the plot along. She's questions about her past and accused of lying and killing on purpose. Even after they know she's unaware of her curse and isolates on purpose, she's dragged by the hair screaming and has her face shoved into the snow. I try to fight back and DM tells me she's too weak to move or try to resist. God. Eventually, after being held face down and told to admit to being a lycanthrope or die, I look at the other players and realize there's no way out. So I break my character. I tell them after spitting in their faces and trying to fight for hours, she sobs and says they must be right. She must be filled with the devil. She doesn't know enough to disagree. Player finally lets go and walks away. I say my character curls up in the fetal position, sobbing, trying to conserve body warmth while bleeding out. She thinks she's going to die and hopes the hypothermia helps dull the pain first. What the fuck? I agree. What the fuck? DM really needed to step in here and stop this. Also, these players need to stop being shitheads. Or OP. If you're ever in a situation where RP makes you uncomfortable, feel free to say so. If it's too much, let them know you need a few minutes or that you need to walk away for a moment. Also, you're never forced to play. If you're not having fun and something as extreme as this is happening, walk away. I know it can be tough, but walk away. Aftermath. They offer her some mead, eventually untie her and stitch some wounds, but are still debating whether to kill her or bring her along. Session break called and someone says they're too disturbed to continue. Not all players joined in. 2 tried normal questions and backstory stuff, but were overpowered by insane cruelty. I feel so violated, betrayed, viscerally ill. I've been assaulted before and this was beyond triggering. I specifically brought up to the DM no assault, no torture, not being forced into major character decisions, no sexual assault. It did have a sexual assault framing as players called the initial tying up and position hot. That's fucked up. And shipping characters. I would assume shipping characters is probably more like sexual talk, like, oh, this person's hot. I'd be so hot if my bard were to bang them or something. Like, that's what I assume they mean by shipping. I know that shipping's also like writing stories about 2 or more people being together or whatever, but I imagine the context here, that's probably what was being mentioned. I'm new to D&D. and was so overwhelmed trying to remember my character sheet and rolling on Roll20. Oh crap, so she was electronically playing. Well, that's good, at least she's playing electronically. And describing things, and then was just forced down this narrative pipeline and tried everything to get out. This DM really failed here. Especially if OP listed topics they were not comfortable with. They should have stopped it. Crossing these sorts of lines is completely inappropriate, and the DM and other players should feel ashamed. They should feel like pieces of shit, because they are. They broke my character. They took away my choices, my want for a story arc, my thoughts about character growth. They tortured her and me. I know half of them in real life. Why in a fantasy world where you could do anything would you choose that? Worse possibly is the people who stood back and watched, even a fake world with no real harm. They didn't try and stop cruelty. I left the group. I've been crying and having flashbacks, spoke to my friend in DM. They apologized and I won't accept it. Damage done. I'm going to book therapy, but I've retired my character effective immediately. I don't want to put her anywhere where other people can touch her. I have faced enough fear and violence and violation in the real world to want to replicate that in my spare time. I know I could have stepped out of character and said something or asked for a break, but I didn't. I haven't played in years. I was trying to roleplay out. I wanted them to like me. I was overwhelmed, and this was so intimately violent to be forced to submit again and again and again, I just didn't. What the fuck do I do to ever feel safe to play D&D again? I was so excited and they broke me. TLDR again, first session in a new party, my character was physically and mentally tortured. DM didn't intervene. I was forced to roleplay fundamentally breaking a self-insert character. I quit the table, feel violated. How do I feel okay to play ever again? Not a fun story. And I apologize if that was very uncomfortable for anybody. I totally get OP. The want to get along with a new table, and I'm so sorry you had to go through this. TTRPG should be an escape, not a painful reminder of the past. Best way to get over this is I would take a little break, and then I would try to find another table. Be very upfront with the next DM, and ask what they allow at the table. Let them know what you're comfortable with and what you're not, and confirm with them what topics are allowed to be broached. Don't just say, hey, I don't like torture, I don't like sexual assault, I don't like this, that, and the other. It's important to say those, don't get me wrong, but also confirm with the DM. Make sure the DM says to you, hey, at our table, we don't allow this, that, and the other. That way, there's no confusion. You know, this person is confirmed for me these things. Other ways to kind of help you ease into it and become more comfortable, ask to sit in on a session or two. See how the table plays out. If you like their vibe, ask if you can start with a temporary PC and potentially do something more permanent. It might be a lot to ask, but playing something more temporary will allow you to dip your toes back into this hobby, and it gives you an escape chute should you need it. That way you can hopefully get back in, get settled, become more comfortable. I hope you get to pick that character up someday if that's something you want to do. It sucks when you come up with a really cool character, you get attached, you come up with ideas for it, and ultimately you're not able to do anything with it because bad things happen, or it just doesn't work out, or whatever. No, I wish you the best, OP. Okay, before we jump onto our last story, another reminder. I stream over at Twitch, at twitch.tv/VanDavey. Follow me there. Stream throughout the week, and I would love to have you come hang out. We're actually doing a Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough right now. I'm playing a Dragonborn Paladin. That's actually a ton of fun right now. We're still working through Act 1. I would love it if you came and hang out. But let's jump onto that last story. Our last story is going to be from user Atimija. I think I pronounced that wrong. And it's titled, Friend used my character as an NPC and edited her using AI. We're doing multiple AI this in recent. A few years ago, I played in a D&D campaign with my friends that was kind of all over the place. We had a unique homebrew mechanic where your skills were based on your actions and personality. It was chaotic, unbalanced, and at one point, one character became so overpowered they could literally eat an entire world. Despite the mess, I loved that campaign because of the character I made. Over time, she became more than just a PC. She turned into a reoccurring character I used in other games and eventually became my personal online avatar. I love when a player gets attached to their PC and it's something that sticks with you. It's so cool to see something that you've just grown to love and use over and over again. For me personally, I don't have PCs because I'm kind of DM. I'm more of a forever DM. But I have gotten to take my players and their PCs from a previous campaign, and they have been cameoing periodically in our second campaign that we're doing at home. It's a ton of fun. I love people showing up from the past and they're just like, oh shit, it's that guy. I love it. Fast forward a few years, one of my old party members sends me an AI enhanced quote edit of my character. I'm an artist and I draw a lot for myself, for my friends, for anyone who asks. This friend knows that if he just reached out, I would have gladly made whatever changes he wanted. But instead he fed my art to an AI to alter it. That alone upset me deeply, but the next two things made me feel sick. Okay, I feel like the friend should have asked before doing any AI editing, especially because some AI require you to feed it the image to mess with it. So now the AI has been fed their art now, and it's actually being used to help train it. That's kind of shitty, and by kind of I mean really shitty. I always wanted to revisit that old campaign, to review it, to give it a sequel, bring this story full circle. But my mental health kept getting in the way, and I could never start it. Now I found out he's doing it instead, without me. And the worst part, everyone from the original group is there, except me. We have another D&D game going right now with a different GM. 3 other players from that original group are in it, but after finding this out, I feel like I can't play with them anymore. I'm hurt, I feel isolated, I feel my art has been violated. Update, I talked with one of the players who's very close to DM and learned that I wasn't invited because of my mental health problems and them just being upset I couldn't finish my own campaign. After I called out DM, he apparently got very upset at the player who showed me the AI picture and said he most probably won't continue the campaign. Okay, that DM is just upset that he got caught. It's shitty of them to revisit a campaign without all the original players being invited. It'd be one thing if OP was a bad player and caused issues, but mental health causing them to miss out is not a valid reason to not include them. At least they should have offered them a chance to play, and then OP can decide to not join because of their health. I'd be hesitant to call any of those players or that DM a friend. That's super shitty behavior to not reinvite an original campaign member, especially when they weren't causing issues. And for them to also hold it against OP because their mental health stopped them from completing a different campaign is, again, really shitty. These are really bad friends. Plain and simple. I don't blame them for not wanting to play in that other campaign with those people. My hope is that they would maybe accept an apology if one's given and learn to forgive and forget, because you are kind of ruining friendships here, but also those players are really fucking shitty for not saying something. Because they should have at least said to the DM, hopefully, hey, I'm not comfortable with the fact that you have not invited so-and-so. You know, why haven't you invited them? I get it sometimes when like somebody's running a campaign, they're not going to have enough room for everybody. You know, if somebody's DMing who normally doesn't DM, they're not comfortable with having maybe as large of a group as maybe their normal group plays. So they're like, hey, I'm going to not maybe include everybody. I know these people can be consistently here or something, or maybe they'd be interested in the themes I'm doing, so I'm going to focus on them or something like that. I totally get that. But because somebody had mental health issues, which may or may not be, you know, pertinent and causing issues currently in their life, is not a reason to not invite them. They're kind of shitty. That being said, thanks for hanging out, everybody. That's going to be it for today. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment. Also, don't forget to catch me on Twitch. Again, please let me know what your thoughts were on any of these stories. I would love to know and hear about it. Otherwise, I will see you guys on the next one. Bye, everybody.